down. We the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard NFL. We're heading into week 14. Season's almost over. It's coming to a close. We got the final sprint, final 5 games ahead of us, starting this week in week 14. Smokey, how are you doing?
Oh, I am good. I am better than... There's a list of teams I could pick that I am better than their fans right now. Patriots probably at the top of the list. Saints are on that list. Every team who doesn't have a starting quarterback anymore is on that list, except for the Bengals. Apparently, they're doing just fine with their backup. But, yeah, who else? I want to pick, like, the Eagles, because that would be fun to pick on them, but they still only have 2 losses on the entire season, so I'm sure their fans are not too down about that, although it does give you some kind of indication that there's a problem with that team, right? This is not the team from last year. If they can get 8 up like that at home by the 49ers, which the 49ers, obviously, probably one of the best teams in the league, but you still got...
The best.
Yeah,
The best.
They're probably at the top of the power rankings this week, I'm sure. But it's still, there's something wrong with the Eagles. So, yeah, maybe it is cause for worry there in Philadelphia. But how are you, Alex?
I'm better than... Actually, I'm swerving over. I'm going FSU fans.
Oh, my God.
For the college. I'm better than those guys.
Oh, man.
Even though my mind isn't still fully made up on whether they should have gone in or not. I still am not fully decided on that.
Oh, absolutely.
And maybe we can talk about that at the end of the show when we talk about college a little bit, because that will be an interesting one for sure. I also am better than Eagles fans, obviously. Also, I'm better than Eagles sideline personnel. Who will hopefully be banned from being like the first line of defense on the sideline, which is just a ridiculous situation. How that is even possible, like even allowed to happen. Hopefully the NFL will dispense swift justice upon that whole situation, and that shouldn't be a problem anymore in the future. But we will see how that goes. Been a pretty good weekend for me, at least as for my personal fandom, I must say. You know, Alabama snuck in, pretty good win, and then of course the Niners with the best game of the season. How were our standings from last week with the predictions though?
We actually tied last week. It wasn't as good as the week before. We got 8 correct. We disagreed on 4 of them, and we split that 2-2. Our disagreements were the Broncos and Texans. That win streak was finally snapped, and you got lucky with that one because the Broncos almost did it. They almost pulled that off. But I suspect they're going to be winning some more games here in the near future. But you had the Panthers. I had the Bucks. And Panthers are not going to win anymore this season. So you had the Browns. I had the Rams. The Rams put a stomping on the Browns. And I get, I should have talked myself out of it. But the Eagles just kept winning and winning and winning. And I kept picking against them. And when I finally picked them, I'm like, okay, so they're just going to keep winning. I'll pick the Eagles. And then they do what they did. So I was wanting to pick the 49ers. I didn't. But you got that point. Total was 8 apiece on the week for us. Our grand total on the season, 117 for me, 115 for you. And I looked back at our previous years. This is like 12 points lower than our best season, and I think 8 points lower than last season. So it's either the parity in the NFL that's throwing us off, or we're getting worse at this game.
I don't know, man. It could be both, honestly. It could genuinely be both. I have no idea. Feels like it's a very random season as well. Like there's a lot more deviation happening than usual. I think I just noticed last weekend we have so many teams like sitting around this 500 mark. It's crazy. Like in both divisions, we have like 3 to 5 teams at exactly or within one game of 500 fighting for those wild card spots. It's crazy how much equality we're seeing there. And then of course the fact that like half the starting quarterbacks in the league have gotten hurt by now, and it's just a circus, and you just never know what to expect in any given week. It feels like every week there's 1 or 2 going out at this point, which is just crazy to see. Could be all of those factors. let's check in here with the MVP power rankings. I will go first, though I don't believe I have to, because what I'm going to say is obvious, and it is so obvious that mainstream media has actually picked up on this, and for the first time, your official betting favorite to win the NFL MVP, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. What do you have?
You know what? I'm still going with Tua, but Purdy is right there, pretty much tied. This is like a 1A, 1B situation. Until Tua just absolutely blows it, because Purdy is who he is, I think Tua still has the edge. If these two ended up statistically and in all realms you could think of to measure who wins the MVP, if they ended up completely tied, the edge is going to go to Tua, because Brock Purdy is who he is. Like I said last week, he's going to have to outdo everyone that's in competition with him by a good margin to win this. But hey, it's pretty cool to see that some of the media has jumped on board. Everybody loves a good underdog story. Here's the thing though. I've been seeing random outlets in the NFL media picking Dak Prescott as their MVP now. It is starting to pop up. The guy has not proven that by any means. I'm sorry, Cowboys fans. I know that you hate us because we don't really care for the Cowboys. He hasn't proven himself. Like, he hasn't proven himself more than Jared Goff or Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. He's down there with those guys right now. He's not on that level with Tua and Purdy and even Lamar at this point. But since the Cowboys have so many fans, of course they pick him. What do you think about Dak?
Okay, so I got Purdy number one. I got him ahead of Tua at this point, and I don't. And I think after this weekend, it's gotten slightly wider. Even though Tua played well against Washington, his previous game wasn't that good. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually have to disagree a little bit on Dak. Statistically speaking, Dak has by far the best season of his career, and he is a top 3 quarterback in the league this year, by far. Actually, statistically speaking, Brock Purdy's running laps around everyone else, but that's nothing new. We knew that, and he had to be like 3 levels better than anyone else so that people would look past the draft position and give him the award anyway. Here's why I also agree with you, though, on Dak, is that, yeah, he's having the best season ever. If you look at strength of schedule, the Cowboys are playing cotton candy team after cotton candy clown team, week in, week out. The Giants, the Jets, they play Washington and the Giants twice. Seattle last weekend, that shootout on Thursday night, aside from Philadelphia and the Niners, and in general, the teams that I've actually beaten, that was the best team they've beaten all year. That is a barely struggling to be 500 team. The best team the Cowboys have beaten. They are playing a bunch of circus teams this year, which is why I don't think it's comparable. You can't compare what Dak is doing, because we've seen him anytime he plays a good team, a winning team. He's playing the Eagles, the Niners, any good team. They tend to lose, and he plays badly. He throws 2 picks, and he doesn't make it happen. So, given the schedule that he has, yeah, he's making the most of it, and he's looking good. Strength of schedule-wise, he would not be in my top 5 for MVP. Since we shouldn't look at strength of schedule, at least not as strongly, right now he actually is my number 2 in the power rankings. 2 or 3, kind of. I guess favoritism would have me put him at 3. Statistically, he should be number 2. I'll put Tua at 3. I'll put them tied for second. It's hard to deny that, but here's the thing: they are playing the Eagles this week, and it's time to prove it. Yeah. If Dak wants to win the MVP, you got to win this week, and you got to outplay Jalen Hurts clearly. Jalen Hurts dropped off a little bit with that underwhelming performance, so I got Purdy 1, then I got dealer's choice, Tua or Dak, and then after that, I feel like it's down to those 3 at this point. Could Lamar, come back? Could Jared Goff come back? Could Josh Allen come back if he wins out against a tough schedule the Bills have? Possible, but those are all outside chances to me at this point. I still don't buy the Tyreek Hill, CMC. They're going to be offensive player of the year favorites, but I think MVP is a quarterback award. It's, to me, I would take those 3 against the field at this point. Or I actually probably take just Purdy and Dak against the field at this point.
I want to say something.
It's definitely an open debate.
Yeah, I want to say something else about Dak, though. A lot of people are saying that Tua is equivalent to Dak because of the team's record against lower level teams. They're blowing them out, and against good teams, they're struggling. But overall, Tua has played better in those struggling games than Dak has in his struggling games. And the thing about last week, the Seattle game, everybody wants to point to that. Like, yeah, look, he can actually win these shootout games. Yeah, but so can Jake Browning. In a shootout, things like that happen. It doesn't prove that you got an elite quarterback just because of a score like that. It happens. There's tons of no-name quarterbacks. I mean, Trent Dilfer has won some. He actually won a Super Bowl also, but nobody even remembers who he is at this point. These things happen. It doesn't prove that you have an elite quarterback because he won a shootout, because shootouts happen all the time because of the momentum of the game and defenses getting tired and whatnot. Almost any quarterback can pull that off at any given time. But I don't know. I'm going to keep Dak around 4, 5, somewhere in there. But yeah, I got Tua and Purdy, 1A, 1B.
Yeah. Like for me, it's really the best for the same criticism that goes for Dak can also go for Tua, and that's why my argument is so strong for Purdy at this point. The best team that the Dolphins have beaten this year, record-wise, like Denver. Yeah.
Oh, that was that
at
70-point blowout.
That was a 70. That was a 70 burger, and at that point Denver was horrible. But there's not a single winning team other than Denver that they've beaten so far. They've lost to Buffalo, Philadelphia, Kansas City.
Yeah.
So that happens. They're losing. They've so far lost to the elite teams. So have the Cowboys. And on the Cowboys note, you have to ask yourself, why even get into a shootout with a mediocre team to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Even though Dak Prescott win it. Brock Purdy has beaten the Cowboys. He not only has he beaten the Cowboys, he's whooped them to hell and back, and he's done the same to the Eagles just now. So that's why it's even more impressive to me than what Tua's been doing than what Dak's been doing. That's why I'm going with Brock Purdy. Odds on favorite, but still everyone's pick. You can go vote for your favorite to win the MVP if the season ended today on our channel page. So far from last week, I think Tua was still the winner. I think Tua still won the bet, or the popular vote. I would not be surprised if Purdy won the popular vote today, because he got so much exposure on a national stage now after that performance, and in the media as well. Like, there's you don't realize what it takes for the mainstream sports media to even acknowledge the potential for Brock Purdy to be an MVP, and here's why: because no one saw him coming, and there's way too many big egos going around that cannot accept the fact that a player that wasn't on their radar is good.
Oh, yeah.
That's simple. And they're grasping at straws. His name sounds like Turdy. He wears his hat backwards. I mean, he works on a farm in his bye week. What do you mean? It's a clown show. It's a circus. The things that people make up to somehow not acknowledge that they just were wrong on a prospect. No one saw that guy. He was last in the draft. Not a single team saw this coming. Not a single NFL scout saw this coming. No one.
Shanahan didn't see it coming, or he would have drafted him in the second round or third round.
No one did.
Yeah.
Nobody did.
No.
No one. No scout, and surely no media analyst who talks for a living and doesn't actually do football. But those are exactly the guys that will never acknowledge it. And the fact that these guys are now talking about him as an MVP candidate speaks volumes at just how much better he has been than everyone else.
Yeah.
On track for the statistically best season for a quarterback in 49ers history. And there have been a couple of good ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a game that we play, Smokey, which is called Guess the Biggest Spread for the upcoming week. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Yeah, I need you to guess the biggest betting spread as of right now for this upcoming week 14 in the NFL.
Well, there's definitely a few that stand out here. I don't think it doesn't look like there's any giant spreads just from going through. The Patriots, everybody beats the Patriots and the Steelers, but the Steelers' offense has been so stagnant these past couple of games that I don't think that should be a big spread anymore. You would think the Lions and Bears, I think that's going to end up being a shootout. Even though the Lions are much better than the Bears, that game's going to end up in a shootout. I'm pretty sure of that. So, Texans over the Jets. Who would have thought at the first of the season we would be saying that? But fate has it that the Texans are way better than the Jets now. So this is ridiculous. It would have been exactly flip-flop ahead of the season if you were looking at the odds. 49ers and Seahawks. 49ers should have an edge there. Dolphins over Titans should be a pretty big one. So I'm guessing it's either the Dolphins over the Titans or the Packers over the Giants.
Which one?
Go with Packers and Giants.
It's the Dolphins.
Oh,
it is the Dolphins. Actually, the Packers don't have that big of a spread at all.
Really?
But the Packers are 7-point favorites. The Dolphins are 13-point favorites.
Oh, wow.
1-3.
Wow, that's a big spread.
Yeah, that's a big spread.
I was expecting
playing at home.
like 7-8 points or something, but yeah, wow.
13 points, so they're thinking they're going to run it up on them. And actually, the Niners have the second biggest one at 10.5 at home.
Oh, wow.
That's just a lot of respect. I'm probably staying away from that betting, knowing what can happen in divisional rounds and divisional games. Even though they should blow them off, and you never know for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned the Steelers, and that gets us into the predictions here because they're playing on Thursday night at home, hosting the Patriots without Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. You know what? Trubisky might give this offense a spark because it is looking so bad. I watched a giant portion of that game, and I'm just yelling at the TV like, why is it so hard for a team to get a first down? Just 3 and out, over and over. And it's like, there's so much talent on that field. Is it scheme-wise? Is he coaching? What is going on here? Is it Kenny Pickett? Is that the problem? That's why I'm wondering right here if Trubisky can come in and actually give a spark to this team. Maybe just take some shots downfield, see what happens. Maybe you can get the offense rolling. It's the Patriots. The Patriots are really, really bad, and they do not want to win. They want a high pick at this point. I am absolutely convinced that the Patriots don't want to score another point the rest of the season. I will be taking the Steelers at home.
I have a hard time picking this one, but I'm going to take the Steelers as well, just because the ineptitude of the Patriots offensively. This is flying under the radar because they're like the second or third worst team in the league right now. But the Patriots' defense is working miracles on a weekly basis. If there was any semblance of an offense, like an offense that can score on average 2 touchdowns a game, the Patriots would be sitting currently in a playoff spot. They'd have a winning record, good winning record, sitting on a playoff spot. So the fact that just the offense can be this bad is astounding. Defensively, minus their 2 best defensive players, who both got hurt early in the season, they are still holding teams to a couple of field goals a game, which is crazy to me, but they cannot play offense. They're cycling through quarterbacks, and I don't even think it's the problem is the quarterback position. It's just there's absolutely no talent around them. This offense needs to rework. I believe at least 5 new starters for the next year. I think they'll clean house on the offensive side in this offseason, probably including quarterback, and just start completely from the top, because it's one of the worst offensive seasons I've ever seen. I will take the Steelers with or without Kenny Pickett. I think they should be able to score a touchdown, maybe 2, which is probably enough to take care of the Patriots on Thursday night. So I got the Steelers too. Your Falcons are hosting the Bucks in a very important divisional game.
Oh, this is very important, yes. We definitely need to see how this shakes out. The Buccaneers are coming off of a win. So are the Falcons. The Falcons have a 2-game win streak. Let's see if we can keep expanding on that. That's what we need, is the momentum. That was an ugly game against the Jets. However, I'm not as down on the Falcons for only putting up so many points on the Jets, because that is one of the best defenses in the league, and they were playing out there in the rain. Of course, it's not going to be a 35-34 game or whatever people want to see. When it's rainy and you have really good defenses, 13-8 is what you get, and the Falcons were better the entire game than the Jets. So I have a little bit of faith in the Falcons coming out of this. Now, the Bucks winning does worry me, but it was over the Panthers. The Panthers are another team like the Patriots who do not want to win. So I'm not going to give them too much credit for that. I feel like this game could go two ways. Either another 13-8 type game in the end, where neither offense can get going, or we're going to see a shootout like one of those Bengals games that I was just talking about recently. Maybe we get like a 34 to 28 type game or something. And when that happens, I will be picking either way for the Falcons to win at home.
I agree with you. I think Falcons lock it up here, and this could be very important. You have another divisional game coming up, and I'm sure you're going to be rooting for the Panthers in that one. Take another win away from the Saints, but the Falcons have a good opportunity if they can burn through their own division to really make a case for themselves as a playoff team. Currently, they are in the lead in the division, and this is a very important one. So I agree, they are going to hold on to win, but I'll say this. This is not an easy game by any means. I think this is going to be very close, and they could just as easily lose this as they can win it. And you know this probably better than anyone else. Mike Evans is still playing a phenomenal game, and he's capable of going off at any point in time. Feels like he kind of does every game anyways. So approach with care, but I'm saying the Falcons do get it done. Rams and Ravens.
Yeah, the Ravens are coming off of a bye, and they have been really good before the bye. So that's bad news for the Rams, although the Rams that was kind of a blowout over the Browns. 19-36. I mean, you did it. I called that happening. I know the Browns have a really good defense, but that Rams offense was just firing. And Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp is still hurt, but he did have a touchdown in that game, if I remember correctly. But it's going to be Puka Nacua from here on out, even though I think he's banged up also. But as long as Stafford can keep that connection up, they're going to put up points, regardless if it's the number one offense or not. And I believe statistically the Ravens are the number one offense right now. But that's why the Ravens, having a good defense, even without Mark Andrews, can still put up points on anyone. And I will be picking the Ravens at home.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. For one, because I kind of want this rise of the Rams to stop. Because I don't really feel like this division getting into any kind of danger anymore. They played fantastic game against the Browns. Time to cool down. They put one over Seattle. I needed them to. That was good. Beat the Browns. I'm fine with that. Now it's time to slow down. Also, the Ravens are going to be playing the Niners soon, which, fun fact, the Niners are playing 5 teams back-to-back who are all birds. 5 bird teams back-to-back. They're going to play the Niners soon. I wouldn't mind if this went into overtime and became like a big slugfest, but I don't want the Rams to win. I also think the Ravens, coming off being rested, they're going to go in there and they're going to hold it at home and get it done, because they're in the race for the 1 seed in the AFC. It's wide open, so anything can happen. Baltimore wins. The Lions and the Bears.
Yeah, I kind of touched on this earlier. This is going to be a blowout. Or not a blowout, a shootout, sorry. A lot of people think the Lions are going to go in there and blow it out, and I expect Vegas does also, but it just feels like being in Chicago and the Bears coming off of a bye, I think Justin Fields is going to have probably the best game of his season here. We saw that the Lions defense is much softer than it was earlier in the year. They can let up a lot of points, and mobile quarterbacks seems to be one of their weaknesses. And I don't think they're going to win. I don't think Chicago's going to win this. I think the Lions still have enough firepower to pull it off. I just think it's going to be a shootout, and I think it's going to be close, but I'm still taking the Lions on the road.
I agree with that. The spread here is 3 points. 3-point favorites of the Lions at Chicago.
Wow, I thought it would have more.
I wonder why. It's at Chicago, that's fine, but on a neutral field, is this like are they less than a touchdown favorite? I don't know. I feel like the Lions can easily put up 35-40 here. Maybe because we've seen in the past the Bears kind of when they get scored on a lot, the offense fires and they weirdly turn it into a shootout that goes into the fourth quarter. They also come back sometimes, so it's possible. But I think it's a very cautious line. I would have given the Lions at least 5 or 6. They get 3. I might place a bet on this one. I believe that the Lions are going to take care of this one pretty cleanly. We have the Colts and the Bengals.
Yeah, and also thinking about that, even Jameis, as mobile as he is, when he came back in, he made that a game, whereas Derek Carr could not. But the Colts and the Bengals, the Colts are on fire right now. Wow, what a turnaround to that season. Everybody thought their season was over when Anthony Richardson went out. But look at the Bengals also. They somehow can win a shootout with Jake Browning at quarterback. Gardner Minshew versus Jake Browning. If this is a shootout, that will be poetic right there. I'd love to see that. But overall, I still think the Colts have a better quarterback than Jake Browning. Like, maybe this might be a Mike White thing for all we know. Like, you know, couple good games, he's going to return to normal. He'll turn back into a pumpkin at midnight, kind of like Josh Dobbs. I think that's what we're dealing with here. I'm picking the Colts on the road.
See, usually when we get these backup quarterbacks, we get baited by them having a great first game.
Yeah.
And then we say, okay, everyone has a week to prepare for them, and they'll fall back down to earth. But the Jaguars did have a week to prepare for this because Joe Burrow didn't just get hurt. They knew it was going to be Jake Browning. They knew they were preparing for him, and they still couldn't beat him. I mean, he was dotting people up. He was playing incredible for his first start in the NFL, which makes me think that this has the possibility of continuing. Maybe not at that same level of height. You'd expect him to make some mistakes, but the Bengals don't seem to be completely out of it. At least, like, they've not given up. They know what they have, and they think that is going to be enough to remain competitive. I think the Bengals win this. They keep this one at home because Indianapolis is a volatile team. Of course, yeah, they can win games, and they are firmly in the playoff hunt and suddenly out of nowhere in the AFC. But I'm giving this one to the Bengals. I think Jake Browning has another similarly good game, and other than that, I think they have a better roster. Like the supporting cast, if you're throwing at Chase Young, that's a good security blanket to have. I think they can run the ball. The Colts are without Jonathan Taylor, so I'm seeing a lot of mismatches here for the Bengals. They're winning this with Jake Browning. Maybe a bit of an upset pick to some people, but I think it looked very good. I mean, he did not falter against the Jags, so I have reason to hope that or believe that he'll continue to do that. Speaking of the Jags, they're playing at the Browns this weekend.
Yeah, and I'm really trepidatious about this pick because the reason they lost to the Bengals is why they couldn't win that shootout is because Trevor Lawrence was injured. And as of right now, it looks like they plan on C.J. Beathard starting unless some other news comes out before the game happens. So that does make this really tough because the Browns, I haven't seen who do they plan on starting. I don't know if it's DTR, if it's still Flacco again, if maybe PJ Walker. Neither one of them are going to make this team great again unless Deshaun Watson rolls back in there somehow. But they still have a good defense, and they could put it to the Jaguars here and pull off the same thing that the Bengals did last week. Man, I automatically circled the Jaguars. Now I'm not really feeling that good about it with C.J. Beathard there. Maybe C.J. Beathard can do what these other guys have done, though. Maybe he can pull off a Minshew and a Jake Browning. You know what? I'm going to stick with my original pick because I'll be mad if I change it. I'm going to say the Jaguars on the road.
Give me the Browns. I think Trevor Lawrence out, not for the season, but it'll put a damper into this one-seat campaign for Jacksonville, who had it in their own hands, by the way. It's before last weekend, if the Jacksonville Jaguars had one out, they had the one seed, and no one would be able to take it from them because they're holding the tiebreakers. Now, of course, they lost that close one to the Bengals. They're without their quarterback, without Trevor Lawrence, who turned that franchise around big time. And with CJ Beathard, we kind of know who he is. He's a serviceable, high-tier backup quarterback in the NFL. Has been for a while. He started for a while, couldn't quite make it. He was low-tier starter, high-tier backup. But that is a big, big step down. And the Browns need a win desperately. Now, I know that they're also down to their fourth quarterback in Joe Flacco, but that's a veteran who's played a lot. And it's a much less quarterback-dependent team. I think there's a defense that can force 3-4 turnovers against a quarterback who isn't fully ready. He's going to be ready, but he's just not in the game mode, right? He didn't expect to have to start is something he hasn't done in a couple of years. He hasn't really played an NFL snap. I think this offense is going to look very discombobulated. The Browns are going to force enough big plays on defense to win this one, even with Joe Flacco. So I got Cleveland at home here. Panthers and the Saints is one that has big implications for you.
Yeah, another backup quarterback also. Jameis should be starting this. A veteran who can throw a lot of touchdowns and also throw a lot of picks. You never know what you're going to get with Jameis, but it's always exciting to watch. Unfortunately, he plays for the Saints, so that makes me want to watch him a little less. I kind of want the Panthers to win this, but I can't really pick them because look at the team. It's just in shambles. I can't even say they're improving, nor can I say they want to improve. But then again, they don't have picks. So what's in it for them? Just the thrill of victory over beating the Saints? I don't know. Both these teams are really bad right now. But I'm going to say that with Jameis out there and probably Taysom Hill, them two tag teaming, they can beat the Panthers. It should be. I mean, it's in New Orleans. Let's go with the Saints at home.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I'm taking the Saints as well. It doesn't really matter who plays quarterback. Panthers I don't know, I'm not putting anything together for the rest of this year. It's gonna have to be another big draft rebuild season for them. Of course, there's always upset potential in a divisional game, but I sure am not betting on it. I'm going with the Saints. Even Jameis is a serviceable quarterback. He could be a low-tier starter for some teams in the league. So the Saints should not have a problem with dispatching the Panthers, especially since they're at home. And the playoffs are on the line, so it's a must-win for them. I think they'll be ready. The Houston Texans and the Jets.
This game is lopsided now. Like I said, we wouldn't have expected this early in the season, but here we are. The Texans are way better than the Jets. Looks like they're going to go back to Zach Wilson to reload with him. I think they fired Tim Boyle at the end of this game here, so he's out. Not that Wilson's going to improve the team that much. I mean, it's kind of a lateral move at this point. The only thing about CJ Stroud is he's going to be missing his number one target, Tank Dell, and he's been using Nico Collins a lot. And I think Noah Brown is supposed to come back for this game, so look for those two to be getting tons of passes because CJ Stroud loves to throw the ball. It's not even a running team anymore. They barely use their... I mean, look at Dameon Pierce. They're barely using the guy anymore. Not that he's doing a lot with his touches, so maybe that's their only option is throw the ball. But either way, the Texans will win this one on the road.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. Jets, looking at, they had a couple of must-win games, of course. Aaron Rodgers was talking about his comeback this season, or whether he would rush it or hurry it would depend a lot on whether there's any playoff aspiration. And it seems unlikely, which is, of course, because it's unlikely they make the playoffs by now. There's not really a realistic chance they'll make the playoffs, so I don't think he's rushing anything. No one's expecting him to come back, and they have to basically just take what they have into next year. Robert Saleh has announced that Zach Wilson is going to once again start, and you'd have to imagine, I don't know if he's auditioning for a job with a different team, or if he's going to be okay with sitting another year behind Rodgers next year. Really hard to kind of see where he's going in the future. I don't know if the Jets fans really want to keep patience with him through so many more years also. So there's going to be a crossroad for him soon, but he's going to start. Hopefully he'll be able to play off freely and take on the Texans there. But I think with CJ Stroud is having one of the best rookie seasons we've seen for a quarterback since Justin Herbert, I think Texans are going to go ahead and win this one, especially after a very strong win against the Broncos, which saved my predictions for last week and also my faith in humanity with the Broncos finally losing and the Texans' playoff hopes, which currently I believe they might be in, or they're one of 4 or 5 teams in the AFC South. They're on 7-5 or 7-6, and anything's possible, but they have to win this one. Must win for Houston for sure, because it's a tight race, so they get it done. Vikings and the Raiders.
Yeah, that division really does look good right now, I'll tell you that, outside of the Titans. But Man, we only get this matchup every 4 years, so I want to say the last time this game happened, there was no team on WWE called the Viking Raiders, but now there is. So that's tag team there. They're probably going to be really invested in this game. I don't know which one's going for the Vikings and which one's going for the Raiders, but I'm sure they'll be happy that this is happening. However, like I said, sometimes the backup quarterback has a good game or two and everybody thinks he's going to the Super Bowl and he's going to win the MVP, and then he turns back into a pumpkin at midnight. That is exactly what happened to Josh Dobbs. The Raiders, though, I mean, there's not a ton going for them either. I think, I don't know, I think this is about even, really, with their backup quarterbacks. Man, it's a tough decision. I didn't think it was going to be this tough. You know what? I'm just going to give the 3 points to the home team and go with the Raiders.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Josh Dobbs is going to play. Apparently, he's going to be starting. What an up and down season for him, huh? Who saw this coming? He played well enough with the Cardinals to earn that starting spot in Minnesota after Kirk Cousins went down. Showed up the first game, tore the house down, and looked like a starter, and he's going to be the hero that takes him to the playoffs. And then suddenly he has the worst game, or one of the worst games a quarterback has had the entire year. So very difficult, needless to say, to predict anything about the Vikings. However, these are the Raiders, and given that they're the Raiders, I will take the Vikings to go into Vegas and win. I think the Vikings are in the playoff hunt. The Raiders realistically are not. And I think Josh Dobbs will right the ship just enough to beat the Raiders. I don't think they'll be a competitive team come playoff time if they do make it in. But to me, it's going to be enough to beat the Raiders. So Josh Dobbs gets it done. Average game is enough. And the Vikings with a more talented offense beat the Raiders at Vegas. Seahawks at the Niners.
Well, this shouldn't be much of a contest, right? Hopefully you guys don't let it turn into a shootout like the Cowboys did. They should have easily stomped out the Seahawks, but that's a symptom of just how good the Cowboys are. Not as good as everyone thinks. Seahawks, you know, I've said it plenty of times that this team is not as good as their record, and they show it because lately they've been dropping a few games here and there. Pete Carroll always finds a way to a winning record, kind of like Coach Tomlin, so I expect he's going to get a few more wins by the end of the season. Not here, though. This is the 49ers. This is the number one team in the entire league. It is on fire right now. Makes you wonder what happened in that 3-game lull in the middle of the season. But here they are. They're back on top. Picking the 49ers at home.
Yep. Gave me the Niners to win. 10.5-point favorites. Looks like a lot to me, I guess. Yeah, everyone's, of course, impressed by that performance last week. They've beaten the Seahawks easily before, but a divisional game, I would probably never bet on this big a spread, no matter how it looked in the division. I wouldn't bet the spread against the Cardinals either. So I'm taking Niners to win. They're at home. They're going to get it done. Brock Purdy is continuing this MVP campaign, and for the first time, it seems like in forever, with all the injuries in the league, the Niners are a team that is extremely healthy as it looks like now, because usually they're one of the most injured teams every single year, and it costs them, and like nothing greater than last year, of course, when they were without a quarterback in the championship. And of course, we know how that turned out. Now, of course, Purdy got revenge for that last weekend, and hopefully that's not going to happen. It's looking right now, they struggled with injuries early. It cost them games, but all the important players are on the field on the offensive side of the ball. And we're not noticing Hufanga's absence on the defense as of yet, luckily. Defense secondary is holding together well. They've just signed Logan Ryan, a veteran who played for Belichick's Patriots for several years, won 2 Super Bowls, and will be able to be a leadership voice in that DB room as well. That's pretty young. So I have a lot of confidence in this team, in the quarterback, and I'm on the train. I mean, Purdy's going to win this MVP. He's going to continue doing what he's doing. He's got to win it. I don't see how you can snub him out of it, because he's going to have one of the best just passer ratings in NFL history, one of the best passing seasons in NFL history if he keeps scoring like he does. So I believe in Brock Purdy. I believe in the Niners, and they're going to take care of the Seahawks, lock up the division this weekend. Game of the week, maybe second game of the week, because we do have the Eagles and Cowboys, but we also have the Bills at Kansas City.
Yeah, man, it is the game of the week, yes, and it's going to be a close one. It's probably going to be a shootout, but both of these teams are down this year. The Chiefs are not nearly as good as they should be, but the matchmakers love this matchup because it always comes down to the last second, and that's going to happen here. It's in the cards. It's going to happen. Which one comes out on top? Recently, it's been the Chiefs every time, because when these two go to overtime, somehow the Chiefs always pull it out, and many times the Bills don't even get the ball. It's unfortunate for them. I think, playoff indications aside, I think this is finally when the Bills get it. I think they're going to do it. I think they finally get their win over the Chiefs that they've been looking for the past 3 or 4 years. I'm picking the Bills on the road.
This is tough. Tough one to pick. For the Bills, it's a must-win. But here's the thing: both of these teams, both of these quarterbacks are having down seasons. Maybe the best, yes. the one of the worst seasons in recent history for both of these teams. Both playing below expectations, and the Bills even in mighty struggle to make the playoffs to begin with, and the Chiefs would have felt their seat getting hot as well had the Broncos won last week, which by a hair they didn't. It would have been just a game away from the Chiefs, if you can somehow believe it, after the way both these teams started their seasons. But for Buffalo, this is a must-win. For the Chiefs, this is a you better win kind of game. So both will be fully invested. Given the inconsistency I've seen, and just the inability sometimes from the Bills to run the ball, Chiefs are a more complete team in that with Isaiah Pacheco, they have a serious run game, and I'm taking the Chiefs. They are at home. I think they want to lock up this division. They do not want to start Patrick Mahomes in all the way through week 18, trying to lock up their playoff spot, and their defense is good. They're forcing mistakes. They're getting turnovers. Their defensive backfield's good. Of course, they just lost to the Packers, and you could argue there was some ref ball involved. All fair. This happened to the Bills just a week before against Philadelphia as well. I'll take the Chiefs. I think more versatile offense, more consistent offense this year, and it's also better defense. So Chiefs win, and the Bills are going to be practically eliminated, or at least on the outside looking in, from the playoffs. Something we didn't expect, to say the least. But they have Murderers Row ahead of them as well. And it starts with the Chiefs. So it started with the Eagles, now it's the Chiefs. I think they're going to be knocked out. We have the Broncos and the Chargers.
I was just looking up the Bills on the power rankings. They've fallen all the way down to 12. Teams like the Steelers and the Browns and the Texans are ahead of them now. It's crazy to think, man, that the Bills have fallen like that. How the mighty have fallen. The Broncos and the Chargers, is that what we're on?
But yeah, Broncos and Chargers.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, well, man, I think we're going to disagree on this one also, because I have to go back to the Broncos. I think that the trend is just what it is, and I can't really go against it. I have to. They're the post-type sleepers. They're going to continue to win here. The Chargers are not that great. I want to say something about the Chargers. I know they're supposed to be good. Their offense has all these high-powered weapons on it. They could not get within 20 yards of the touchdown, of the end zone in that game against the Patriots. I know they have a good defense. There was 50 yards of that field that didn't see an offensive game. I think the Patriots never got past the 30-yard line. The Chargers never got past the 20-yard line. So that entire game was pretty much played in the middle of the field. No one could do anything. Even though the weather, whatever it is, Chargers, you have to be better than this. It just doesn't make sense why they're so bad. This one being in LA doesn't help them at all. It's probably more Broncos fans there. I'm going to stick with the Broncos. I say they're going to win this one and get back on track and make the playoffs in the end.
I don't want to pick Denver here, but man, I'm not sure. If The Chargers don't win that game against the Patriots, in which they score 6 points. I think Brennan Staley is probably looking for a job by midnight on that same day. They won the game by 2 field goals. 6-0, which is the most horrible game I've ever seen this year, I think. And
it was.
Probably the least proud win of all time. Also, this is now the Broncos. The Broncos are scoring. The Broncos are scoring football with regularity at this point. Now, while their defense still isn't really that good, and Pat Surtain got banged up as well, which is the best defensive player, I don't know. The Chargers aren't putting it together. They need a coaching overhaul, and it's the same thing I was saying every week in, week out. They need a fundamentally new, maybe front office coaching overhaul during this offseason. A lot of things have to change. They got so much talent on their roster, just not turning it into anything. Everything in me wants to pick the Chargers. Everything in me wants to see the Chargers win and then be right about it when they do. But given the last couple of weeks, last 5 weeks maybe I've seen, I have to go with the Broncos. So I have to give you that. You're right. They've been the better team. They are the more effective team right now. And they are probably going to go into LA and win and keep the Chiefs on their toes for the division. Didn't want to see it. Didn't want to hear about it. Didn't want any part of it. But here we are. So Broncos win at the Chargers. Eagles and the Cowboys. Game of the week.
I was just thinking, what if the Bills win this and the Broncos somehow win that division in the end? That would be ridiculous. But it's a possibility at this point in time. The Cowboys and the Eagles. The Eagles are still on their gauntlet run. Man, the matchmakers really did stick it to them. They're just like, hey, we're going to give you the hardest teams in the entire league back to back to back this year. But that's what happens when you make the Super Bowl. They do it to you. The Chiefs are going through the same thing. That's why they're on the gauntlet they're on, and they're dropping a bunch of games. Eagles finally dropped one of those games. That makes it tough here. I don't think the Eagles are as good as their record by any means. I said many times that they're the Vikings of last year. They're just somehow pulling it off by those tiny little scores. And then sometimes you run into the 49ers and get stomped out. That's what happens. Cowboys, same deal. They got the exact same issues going on here. That makes this really tough. I think these two teams are about even. A lot of people are going to pick the Eagles just because they're the Super Bowl team and they have so many wins. But after last week, I can't do it anymore. I don't think the Cowboys, you don't see the Cowboys beating good teams. So it makes it tougher, but I think the home field advantage comes through here. I'm going to be picking the Cowboys at home.
Wow. Yeah, this is tough. This is everyone's talking about this game for the whole week after what just happened with the Eagles. Mm-hmm. I'll take it away from the top. I'm taking the Eagles to win this game. And here's why. It goes back to what I said at the start. They've already played and the Eagles won. They've been a better team. Now both of them got equally fleeced by the Niners. That's not a single hit on either one of them, right? They both clearly have defensive weaknesses. The Cowboys are not beating good teams. The Eagles are beating. They've beaten the Dolphins. They've beaten the Chiefs. And they've beaten Dallas before. So the Eagles are the kind of team that can win against good teams. Dallas is the kind of team that is really padding stats and beating up on the bottom feeders of the league. If Dallas played the same schedule that you see Philly or Buffalo playing, they might be like close to 500. The way they are as a team. They're very overrated given the schedule that they play. I don't think these teams are particularly even. It's going to be close because it's a division and the Eagles are certainly on a down streak and they're banged up and they're tired. I get all of that. Cowboys come in with extra rest. Never an excuse, by the way. People like to make it. Eagles are the better team. They're the more complete team. They've beaten better opponents. They've had success in the playoffs. They've won a championship. They've won games. Recently, I'm taking the Eagles. I think Dallas has an inflated record. That's all I have to say. They haven't beaten the winning team. Not a single one. So prove it here if you're Dallas, but I don't think they can. I don't think they are on the same level as those top teams. So Eagles going to Dallas.
The Eagles don't have an inflated record. They lost to the Jets.
They do. They've lost. They lost to the Jets. That's right. But they've beaten good teams. They've beaten a couple of Super Bowl contenders, right? They've beaten the Dolphins.
Games.
Yeah, but they've won. They won against Miami.
The Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and the Bills. They've pulled out wins over.
That's a pretty good slate, but they win, right? That's the thing what the Cowboys don't do when they play against a good team. What they did against the Niners, it wasn't even close. Like, they were outclassed. They looked like ragdolls. Right? They looked bad. And then they also slip against bad teams, which is the Eagles. So the Eagles blow out bad teams. The Cowboys randomly lose to Arizona.
49ers have the mental edge over everyone, but it's hard to beat a team twice in the same season. That's why I'm going with the Cowboys also, because this one being in Dallas, I think the Cowboys have the edge here.
Fair. They're at home, and momentum couldn't be more in the Cowboys' favor. I'll give you that. The Eagles took their worst loss in probably several years. Cowboys are on a hot streak. They feel like they're playing as good as they could be, and maybe there's some placebo effect going on there. They convince themselves that because they constantly beat up on sub 500 teams, they're somehow good. All possible. I'm sticking with Philadelphia. I think they are not the kind of team to lose back-to-back games, especially not against Dallas. Not like this. So Eagles get it done. By the way, I think I'm rooting for Dallas in this one. It's like not in like liking them, but purely looking at the playoffs picture, right? I need the Eagles to lose another game for the Niners to make the 1 seed. This is the most likely one. And I'm also not that after the season I should be particularly scared of either of those teams matchup wise, but I'm probably even less scared of playing in Dallas than playing in Philly again in the postseason. Should win either way, but standings wise, I should be anticipating a Cowboys win. I just don't see it. I think Eagles are a better team, so that's what I'm going with. We have the Titans at the Dolphins.
Yeah, another team that beats up on weak teams. Luckily, the Titans are weak, and Derrick Henry got knocked out. Like, I don't know if he's gonna play this game or not. He should be in concussion protocol. He got slammed so hard, and his head just bounced off the floor. I feel like he shouldn't be playing, but it is Derrick Henry, so there's a chance he will be playing just because it's Derrick Henry. And he's like a tank. You just can't stop him. He'll be out there if at all possible. On the other side, the other Alabama guys are coming to... Actually, this is in Miami, so you're going to visit the other Alabama guys. This is like an Alabama reunion right here. Yeah, the Dolphins are much better. I can't really defend the Titans. Maybe they can pull off something, but I really doubt it. The Dolphins are going to win this one at home.
Agree. Dolphins get it done against Tennessee. I love Hard Knocks, by the way. With the Dolphins, probably my favorite Hard Knocks I've seen. Mike McDaniel's phenomenal. Tua's great. Amazing story, amazing team. I love following the Dolphins. I hope for their sake that they win the AFC Championship this year. I would love to see them succeed with this current constellation. I think they'll be good for a long time. Plus, I really want a Niners-Dolphins rematch because there's been a historic precedent for that, and also because Mike McDaniel and Kyle Shanahan used to coach together for a long time, so that would be really great. Dolphins, it's the biggest spread of the weekend. They are unperturbed by injuries they've had, and it maybe in the postseason it'll show because some key defensive players have suffered injuries, but this is the Titans. This is not a match for this offense. I expect Tua to continue his campaign for MVP, and the Dolphins are going to take care of business here on Monday night. Packers and the Giants, and feels like a letdown game a little bit, given that it's the last one, but here we are.
Maybe, but the analysts are talking about the Packers like they are on the rise, and they might be. Maybe Jordan Love is turning out to be the quarterback he was drafted to be. It's possible. I mean, wouldn't that be crazy, though, that the Packers just luck into the third quarterback in a row that's going to take them through the next 20 years in the same fashion? And it's been luck the entire time. Like, I don't know. I kind of, like, you look at the Packers and you're like, okay, how much can you guys win? Like, even when it's down, you somehow find a way to win, and it all just works out for you. All these other teams have had stretches outside of maybe the Steelers, but they've all had stretches where they were really bad. but yet the Packers never have. They've always been good. They've always had a great coach. They've always had a great quarterback, and they always win. Giants, you can't say that for them. They've had a few stretches in their history, but mostly down more than up. So here we are again. The Packers, I'm going to say that they keep the momentum. I'm going to say that they may even make the playoffs in the end. And Jordan Love is going to be a decent, maybe really good quarterback. I'll pick the Packers on the road.
Yeah, give me the Packers as well. Impressive win against Kansas City. The Giants are full on, just off the rails mode. Write them off. Need to get back to what they were last year. It's still an enigma. I still have no idea. Was last season a fluke? Is this season a fluke? I can't tell. Of course, they're down a couple of quarterbacks. With Daniel Jones missing most of the season now. I don't know what to say about the Giants. We'll see where they land. I think next year will tell us more about which of the past 2 seasons was a fluke or what direction they're actually heading in, if they found their coach of the future. Other than that, I think Packers find themselves somehow in a playoff race. They're better than I expected them to be, because Jordan Love's been better than I expected them to be. They're sitting roughly around 500, which is more than I thought they would be. I did not even... They're average, and that is a good sign. Because for the longest time when Aaron Rodgers was with the Packers, the team around him has not been up to snuff. And over the last couple of years, that team slowly got elevated. And of course, with him leaving now, Jordan Love takes over. He's inherited an offensive support that is competent, at least competent enough to allow him to play to his strengths. And he's doing that well. I think this season's a huge win if you're the Packers. If you're not picking in the top 5, this season is a huge win if you're the Packers. Everything now is house money, and you even have an outside shot at the playoffs. That starts by winning here at MetLife, and they better get it done. If you just beat Kansas City, you need to win against the Giants. So Packers get it done. We have the Cardinals and the Washington Commies on bye. How many disagreements do we have on these games this week, if you kept tally?
5 total, it looks like. We have the Colts, Bengals, Jaguars, Browns, Vikings, Raiders, Bills, Chiefs, and Eagles, Cowboys.
That's a lot.
5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could be an explosive week.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely not going to tie again, so it's not an even number. So one of us will make ground after this week.
Sounds good to me. It's going to be interesting. Going to be interesting to follow for sure. A lot of these games I like when we disagree, so I have a stake in watching them. If I'm not betting on them, if I don't have a favorite team, I'm going to be rooting for the team that I picked. We brought it up at the start of the show, but we obviously had a big event happening in college football. Big last time Final Four playoff committee decision, and it was the most controversial one of the last decade.
Yes.
I'll let you speak first.
You know what? I've been thinking about this ever since. Here's what they should have done. They should have had an emergency meeting, the committee. Look, we're going to 12 teams next season. You've got fan bases revolting right now. You could have avoided this just by saying, guys, for one season only, we're going to a 6-team playoff. You could have had the other 2 teams in there, and there would not be teams wanting to burn down your headquarters right now, or fan bases, that is. Maybe even teammates also, who knows. But yeah, it's ugly. The fact is, there's some teams that should have gotten it done. If you want to talk about Georgia and Alabama, I watched that game. Now, Georgia fans are not that upset about this. Why? Because there was 29 wins in a row and like 43 wins in the past 3 seasons. There's nothing to really be mad about. We knew it was coming at some point, so fans are not really embarrassed or angry about losing like the other fan bases are hoping that Georgia fans are. They're just not, because it had to come at some point. Now, people are mad about the refs leaning that game toward Alabama, but the fact is, Georgia did not play their best game. They missed the field goal, and that's why we lost by 3 in the very end. If they would have made that, we would have at least had an overtime game, but there was also catches hitting the ground that the refs were calling fair catches, and horse collar tackles that weren't called or whatever. They definitely leaned the game in Alabama's direction. But like I said, we're not mad about that. Now, we are mad that in the end, Alabama and Georgia are the best two teams in the entire country. Or at the very least, two of the best four teams in the entire country. Our FSU fans should be mad. I get it. I saw how they played, especially in their championship game, and it was really bad. They were trying to avoid another case like when they would throw Alabama in just to get stomped out horrendously. Or I would say Cincinnati played decent. They weren't good, but we saw what happened when TCU ended up playing Georgia last year and getting beat by 60 points almost. Things like this happens. I think that's what they were trying to avoid. But the fact is, you can't just leave out an undefeated team. The only way they really could have made everyone happy and been fair is to actually say, we should have made this one season a 6-game playoff. Let the top two teams have a bye. Let 2 play 6, or let 3 play 6. Let 4 play 5. And then the winners of those would have went on to face the 1 and 2 and carry on as normal. That would have been the fairest way to do it, but they didn't do it, and now fans are extremely angry because of it. What do you think about it?
Well, I think... Okay, well, I'll try to be methodical about this, right? Mm-hmm. Michigan's in. Washington's in. Fine, cool. I think no one debates those two. And then after that... Given that it's the last year, we know it had to come down to 4 teams. You can't just on the spot make up to like include 6 or whatever.
Well, you could,
Florida State's the first. But you're changing the system anyway, and if you did that, it would be like an admission that it was the only reason the system ever worked is because it wasn't ever like really close, like it wasn't ever really tested, right? And you don't want to do that just before you phase out, I guess. So, assuming that you have to narrow down to 4. Two are given, and that's how you have to do it. The way I understand it, the way it should be, it's fundamentally like a weird system to have teams entered by committee, but that's how it goes. And Florida State is the first Power 5 champion ever, I believe, to not undefeated Power 5 champion to not make the playoff. It is the committee's due diligence to put the 4 best teams into the playoff. That's how I understand it. It's not the 4 most deserving teams. It's not the 4 most like winning or fan favorite or whatever teams. It's the 4 best teams. And moreover, I believe it's the 4 best teams at that moment when the playoff starts. Not the 4 best teams whenever. Alabama, there is no way you keep Alabama out. I'm not saying this because I'm a fan. I'm saying that because they beat the perennial number 1 team. Georgia's been number 1 from week 1 all the way to the end. Mm-hmm. They've been number 1. Bama beat them head to head. They beat the best team. If you beat what has been the best team all season, you win the SEC. You cannot be left out. To me, that is a lock. I don't know how anyone can argue against that. Now, here's my third. The last one is the only one that's debatable for me: Texas or FSU. Everyone says Texas beats Bama. So the logic of the committee is if Bama's in, Texas has to be in because they beat Bama. But how is Texas winning against Bama more valuable than Bama beating Georgia? Because when Texas beat Bama, first of all, that happened a million years ago. And secondly, Bama wasn't number 1. Bama wasn't even in the, I don't think, was Bama, 4th or 5th ranked when Texas beat them?
Yeah, somewhere.
Months ago. So you're saying a win against a 4th, 5th ranked Bama 3 months ago is more valuable than a win against the number 1 ranked team, undefeated Georgia, the day before decision time. I have no understanding for that. I don't get it. I know head-to-head matters, but things change over that time. Is Texas a better team than Bama today? Decision time. No way. No shot they are. Absolutely not. Who are the 4 best teams? If we were radical about this, who are the 4 best teams? Michigan, Washington, Bama, Georgia. Most likely. Yeah. 4 best teams. Because I know people like to argue on principle, right? Undefeated Power 5 champion has to be in. They beat Bama, they have to be in. Who beats Georgia today? Alabama did, we know that. Michigan can. Washington possibly can.
Twice, though.
Does Texas beat Georgia?
No.
I don't know.
No.
Does FSU beat Georgia? No
We're
way.
gonna find out.
Does FSU beat any of the other 6 teams? Mm-mm. They also don't beat Oregon right now. No. FSU does not belong in this playoffs. They were undefeated. I get it. They won their conference. I get it. I get even that the ACC technically won against the SEC this year. But FSU is down to quarterback number 3. They haven't played a strong opponent in a while. As much as they like to claim that playing against Florida is a quality win, it's not a quality win. I know it's bad. If Jordan Travis doesn't get hurt, they are in. But if they were in, they should be in instead of Texas, not instead of Bama. Because beating a higher rated team more recently has to be more valuable than beating a lower ranked team further in the past. So saying Texas beat Bama a while ago, and Texas, by the way, Texas is 3, right? They got Texas on 3, Bama at 4.
They couldn't do it.
Doesn't make sense to me.
They couldn't do it because of the head-to-head win. Even though they overlook some head-to-head wins, they won't overlook that one for some reason.
When it suits them. I mean, Bama should be 3. And Texas, we just beat the number 1 team, kicked them out of the playoff. I get that Texas beat Bama, but that was a different Jalen Milroe, a completely different team. That was a team that was staring straight into the abyss. And ever since then, Texas has not been convincing. Hey, they beat Oklahoma State. Cool. But they lost to what? Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So Texas beat a worse team than Bama to make the difference, and they also lost to a worse team than Bama, because Oklahoma is worse than Texas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what? So Bama has the better win. Texas has the worse loss. Just because it was head-to-head and happened a million years ago, you have Texas by Bama. Doesn't make sense to me. The best team right now should go in.
To play devil's advocate, and I don't believe this because I still believe Georgia and Alabama are number 1 and number 2 in the country, but they also looked at Georgia had all of its, or not all of it, but a great portion of the star players were injured. A lot of them didn't play. The ones that did play, which was baffling to me, why we kept throwing to guys who can't even run. Lad McConkey was out there. He was hobbling to the line, and then we're still throwing passes to him over and over again. Brock Bowers had surgery in the middle of the season. And then there was the ref ball thing that happened. So to play devil's advocate, I would say maybe they were looking at that and going, okay, well, maybe Alabama is not really good enough to beat Georgia. It's just circumstance. But I don't think that. I think if Georgia and Alabama played 10 times back-to-back, they would be 5-5. I think that's just how these two teams are. And all of them are going to come down to 3 to 7 points.
To that, I would say, well, maybe Texas isn't really good enough to beat Alabama. Maybe it was just a victim of circumstance, right? So, and it happened a million years ago. So why are they above Bama? I don't know. The reason that Georgia's out is not because they lost a game, or not even because they lost to Bama, because that's a formidable team to lose to, is because they lost the day before, and it was a big game for the conference title, and because everyone thought they would win. And that's what to me is the most counterintuitive thing about the system. If Georgia loses a random September game to like South Carolina or something,
doesn't matter,
and beats Alabama in the end, it doesn't matter, right? They lose to their win gets a little bit better, but their loss gets much worse. It doesn't matter. They're in. No one doubts them. They're ranked 3 easily above Texas, right? But that's what fundamentally does not make sense to me. And
that's
by the
why
way,
everybody hates the committee. You know?
Yeah, of course.
They just can't get it right.
Given what they had to work with, they made the most rational decision. Georgia is a better team than Texas, and Georgia's a better team than Florida State. They should have been in. They just lost the SEC championship. You
by
really
3
can't
points
justify
with injured players. Yes.
Yeah, you really can't justify putting 2 SEC teams in. Okay, then it has to be Bama because of the recent win against the number 1 team. I get that. Yeah. given what they had, putting Georgia in would have been a joke to like Texas fans, to FSU fans, and putting FSU fans in were, you know, the Texas complaints because Bama got in. So
no matter who got in, the fans were going.
There's no good outcome, but I think it's the best or second best one. If you want to put FSU in, I'm willing to entertain someone telling me you can, out of principle, you can't leave out an undefeated Power 5 champion. Fine, put him in over Texas, but I will not. I will not entertain like leaving Bama out after this one. I'm not willing to hear it. I'm not. What would have happened if Oregon beat Washington? Who's going in? Not Washington. If anyone's going in, it's of the Pac-12. It's Oregon, obviously, because that win just happened.
Even after that game, I still think Oregon is better than Washington.
So do I.
I think it was two flukes back to back somehow.
It somehow happened. Season. It somehow happened, and I hate that Texas is probably playing in the national championship because they're going to beat Washington.
Yeah.
But it's probably going to happen. You lose to like in a season where undefeated Florida State is out, where Georgia is out because of one game. A team that lost to Oklahoma is going to play in the national championship. But that's this whole season's been the argument, obviously, against the committee and why it's going to be phased out. The system, at least, starting next year. But that's what we're looking at. And by the way, to undermine my argument, Georgia is going to play FSU. And by that, I mean Georgia's third string is going to play FSU.
Yes.
And by that, I mean Georgia's third string is going to blow out FSU.
The spread. They know there's going to be no Brock Bowers. There's going to be no Lad McConkey. There's going to be no Ra Thomas. There's going to be probably no Tate Ratledge. The spread right now is still 14 points in Georgia's favor.
Look at that. What does that tell you? Is that a team, Florida State, that you want in the playoff?
No,
not if you care about competitive playoff. If you care about the story, hey, they overcame an injury to their quarterback and they won out and they won their conference. Sure.
Yeah.
But you only get 4 teams. You better make them all good.
Yep.
And you know you had it with Cincinnati. You saw what it was. If you care that much about undefeated teams, you got to put Liberty in because Florida State played a paper mache schedule compared to all these other 5 teams.
That's true.
Then put Liberty in. They played a weak schedule, but they won. They won everything. It's how it is. So the system's going to be renewed. Florida State's going to get swept probably by Georgia, who, by the way, you were a big fan of Brock Vandegrift, right? For a long time?
Yes, man, I hate it. Oh, God. I knew he had to leave at some point. I think he's going to be good. If he goes to the right team, he's going to be really good because he is a true dual-threat quarterback. He's a big, giant dude. He's much like Josh Allen or Cam Newton. He's one of those type guys. Man, I wanted to see him have his shot. But I understand that you can't just sit there and wait. No one knows Carson Beck might come back again. So, yeah, I mean, I understand him leaving, but I really wanted to see him get his shot. I think if he goes to the right place, he's going to be a really good quarterback in the end.
Yeah, well, he's going to Kentucky.
Oh, so
he already got a program.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he's got a program to carry on his shoulders.
Oh, man. He's a Will Levis type quarterback, except better, so that makes sense. He can have a lot of success there.
Yeah, Kentucky lost the thread of the back half of the season, but with a top quarterback, yeah, we'll see. Maybe they'll be competitive next year.
Yeah, probably so.
Definitely possible.
Man,
definitely possible.
Hate that we got to play him.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about these 2 games that we do have, though.
Yeah.
You have a little tinfoil idea of why they put Alabama in 4 and not at number 3. And what was that again?
So they wouldn't... wait, what did I say?
You said the reason they put Bama in at 4 is because they want to piss off Michigan.
Well, there is that. There definitely is that because of the cheating scandal. So if you really want to punish Michigan, you can't just come out and say, hey, you're not making the playoff because of the cheating scandal, because the investigation hasn't been achieved yet. So the NCAA has to do that, so they can't just hold them out. So what do? You give them the best team that you think is going to blow them out in the first round. So it made sense that, all along with Texas actually having the win, and we went through all that, but it makes sense that you throw Alabama in there and say, all right, now go out there and stomp out Michigan for us so we don't have to deal with them cheating and still winning a national championship. And we don't even have to see them in the national championship game. Now, here's the funny scenario that I thought of, that the refs are going to be so in favor of Alabama. Also, Michigan still signs. This could come down to a 0-0 type game, because the signs are going to be out there. Bama's not going to be able to do anything, and then Michigan is going to have the refs trying to hold them down. So 0-0,
really?
That'll be a wonderful game.
All right, okay, yeah. And then at some point Bama just kicks a field goal. So yeah,
in overtime.
Okay. Here's, by the way, another algorithm I just developed while you were speaking about how you figure out if the committee made the right decision or not.
Yeah.
If you don't know who to put in at number 4, ask Michigan. Ask Jim Harbaugh to decide the number 3 and 4 team, and then you do the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Because you just took it away. You said Alabama at 4 is a punishment to Michigan.
Yeah.
Would FSU at 4 have been a punishment to Michigan?
No, that would have been a reward.
That's a bye week.
Yeah.
Texas at 4, not nearly as much.
Yeah.
So I think that just thinking about it that way answers a lot of questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now for the games, I think Texas is gonna win. I hate to say it. I don't like either team very much because I wanted to see Oregon in because I like Oregon.
Yeah.
But Texas and Washington, I think Texas is probably going to win this game. And as for Bama, Michigan, honestly, I have no idea. Michigan is good. They're good.
Yeah.
Now, Bama's been great. You would assume Bama could be the best team remaining right now, considering they're the only one who's been able to beat Georgia in 2.5 years. But I'm not very confident in either direction. I must say that.
I think Alabama.
So I'll take Texas.
I think Alabama easily beats Michigan.
Not easily. I don't know about easily. I think they can do it, but I don't know about easy. Okay, I'll say Bama. I'll say Bama because I want to see Bama Texas in the national championship, and I want it to be like a 3-score game or something, 3-4 score game. I want payback for that nonsense that almost in some insane reporters' minds kept them out of the playoff after beating Georgia.
Yeah,
that's what I want to see.
I mean,
so that's my.
I think Alabama can beat Michigan. You might as well go ahead and put money on it because Texas is not beating Alabama twice in a season. It's not going to happen.
That's right.
Although,
but I'm not confident in Bama beating Michigan though. That's the issue. That's the bigger hurdle to me. You are?
I think they can do it. I don't know. It might. Both of these games might be tough, and that's what they're hoping for. They're hoping for close games. They're hoping for both of these games to end in 3-point games.
Okay, you know what? I have a reverse parlay betting idea, but I'll let you finish first.
You know what? I feel like that's another reason Georgia is not in this tournament, because the last few years, outside of Ohio State, they have blown everybody out. So I think if Georgia was healthy, they beat all 4 of these teams. But then again, you don't want that kind of imperialism in college football either. So it made sense that they leave Georgia out. But I don't know. Both of these games could come down. I feel like Texas and Washington are fairly evenly matched, and that game could go either way. I would like to see Michael Penix make it to the championship, but you never know. And Quinn Ewers is a great quarterback also. All 4 of these quarterbacks are going to go pretty far in the NFL, in my opinion.
I have an idea to pitch, okay? And this is probably going to become the next meta of sports betting, so people take notes, right? You're confident in Bama beating Michigan. I'm confident in them winning the national championship if they beat Michigan. Yeah. The Tide are currently 3-1 to win the national championship. If I bet $10 on Bama, or any number you want, on Bama winning, and they do win, we split the wins. If they lose in the first round, you pay the losses. If they lose in the championship, I pay the losses.
Okay.
That's sound good?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so Bama 3-1. We're doing the math live on here. So we both put like half the money in. So let's say we got $20, right?
Yeah.
Can win up to 40 with the 20 in return, so that would be 60. We'll both put 10 in. If they lose to Michigan, you give me another 10, so you cover the full 20. If they beat Michigan, we lose in championship, I cover the full losses.
All right.
That way we both get our favorable bet. That has to be like I don't know, has anyone ever thought about doing it this way?
I don't know. But I do
I
know
wonder
that
if that's even allowed. That might be against the rules of some sports books.
if they get past Michigan, it's going to be easier to win the
Yeah,
championship.
that's for sure. I think if they can beat Michigan, they can beat whoever else.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is to me the bigger challenge. Okay, we can talk about the amount later off the air, but I'm totally down for that bet. Why not?
Yeah,
I want to see that
do
win.
it.
Let's do that. Okay, we've been running for an hour 20 here. Gotten lost in college, but to anyone who's still watching, let us know what your opinions on this whole committee fiasco, and also looking back at the NFL, which is going on. Picks for this week, we had a lot of disagreements. Let's hear what you have to say. Who you taking to win this week, and also MVP voting heating up. You can go to our channel page and vote for your current MVP favorite if the season ended today. And I want to say this again because I posted this poll before we recorded this video, and I already have a couple of comments telling me, hey, this is like, this list doesn't make sense. What are these people? I can only list 4 names. 4 is the maximum that YouTube will allow me to put. If you have other candidates that you think should win, type it in the comments. I get it. I can't list all of them. I listed Purdy, Dak, Tua, and Lamar Jackson this week. You can have someone else. Fine. I'm listing like what I think is covers most of popular opinion. But if that's not the case, put it in the comments. Maybe I'll change the options next week. But I'm curious to see who your favorite is. So far, mostly it's been Tua all year. I think this is the week the popular opinion is flipping. A week after my opinion flipped to Purdy. But I'm curious to see what everyone has to say. Other than that, do you have anything to add, Smokey?
No, that's it for this week.
Then I'll say thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.
Deuces.
Check the scoreboard, ha. Check. Hey, check the